We were talking about LSU in the top 5 of the coaches poll. We were talking about some of the scenarios. You got to imagine that the SEC is coming out with their schedule today.
I don't know. You're asking the wrong guy. I have no insight there.
You know what? That puts us in line with the right guy, Cole Cubelic, who is from the SEC Network and from ESPN. He is our Conversations Weekly are brought to you by Tex Morris and Edward Jones and the crew over there on Jefferson Highway here in town. Cole, good morning. How are you?
Hey, doing great, guys. How are you?
You anticipate an SEC schedule in the next 24 hours?
No, I don't believe so.
Okay.
Any idea when? Or do you have a feeling on when they want to publish it?
I mean, my thought is it'll be by middle of next week.
Do you know, Cole, with adding these 2 extra games? I know we asked you last week, so just more of an update situation again. Are they going the competitive balance route, or are they leaning towards just doing next 2 opponents on the rotation?
At this point, T-Bob, I have no idea because I think that they've gone through 5 or 6 different scenarios, and they obviously can't find one to land on, even though this time last week I thought they had a formula that they were going to use, and then I think that even changed. So I think there's been a lot of back and forth. I think there's been, this volley of, should we try this? Should we do that? Is everybody going to be happy with this? And I think, from what I understand, there are a couple of schools in the league that have been really frustrated with certain plans, and that has sent them back to the drawing board.
Wow, who do you think that is, Cole? It wouldn't happen to be the team in Tuscaloosa, would it?
Oh, I think you have. I think there are a couple of high-profile names, teams that everybody would recognize nationally that have not been excited about.
You got me trying to play Florida? Are you kidding me? That ain't happening, Greg. Get back to the drawing board. Hey, Cole, the coaches poll came out, speaking of coaches, and top 5 features 3 SEC teams at 3, 4, and 5, Alabama, Georgia, LSU. I know we've touched on these sort of questions every week when you come on, but it just kind of calls it back into focus. Why is a Georgia team that had a terrible offense last year and is replacing that entire offense getting the benefit of the doubt over an LSU team that had a much better offense and is replacing less pieces of that offense?
I think, well, first, a lot of it's just hype, let's be honest. I saw a guy that had Jamie Newman going 6th in the draft for his mock 2021 draft, and I'm just thinking, whoa, this is a dude that has not thrown for 300 yards against a Power 5 football team.
Wow.
So, that's a wow. I think what I will – this is what we forget to do a lot of times. And you're guilty of it right now, but you're also accurate in what a lot of people are guilty of when they're talking about LSU. We tend to focus on, what teams lost, what teams are missing, how different they're going to be, who they don't have. And outside of the obvious, I don't think we do our due diligence on what teams do have.
That's fair.
And Georgia's going to have the best defense in the league returning. They have an A-plus number 1 receiver coming back. They're going to have really good talent on the offensive line. And if you're going to lose Sam Pittman and you get Matt Luke, I think that there's a lot of benefit to that. Now at least they have options at quarterback. And I think a big problem with why they got stuck in the mud last year was because they didn't have any options at quarterback. So I think they can benefit from that talent in the backfield. So I think there are a lot of ways that this team is going to be able to be one of the better teams in the league. But I think people are guilty of this when you talk about LSU. Like we talked about it on our show yesterday. People want to talk about the 16 guys drafted and Heisman Trophy winner and all-time season, but do people want to talk about Tyler Shelvin and Glenn Logan and Apuika and how good that front is going to be, and then how much better that'll make the linebackers? And you got a transfer linebacker from North Dakota State that's super fast and sideline to sideline, and Jabril Cox. You got Jacoby Stevens on the back end, who I think is going to be a first-round pick. You might have the best defensive player in college football coming back at corner. And it's like we focus in on these guys that are gone, but hold on a second. There's a lot of dudes there that played a lot of football. It's kind of like the LSU offensive line. There's a lot of starters gone, but there's guys that have played meaningful snaps and that have legitimate experience back. and a quarterback that's been in the system and at least knows what it's going to look like. And maybe outside of Trevor Lawrence, the best offensive player in college football returning in Jamar Chase. You got another good receiver in Jefferson. You got a couple track guys that can run past people out there. I mean, you got the best tight end in high school football coming in to potentially play, and I think he's going to break out this year. So I think it's easy to focus in on, all right, they lost this, they lost that, this many returners are gone, whatever. But I think outside of the headline guys, we lose emphasis on what's back, like what's also back, I guess is what I should say, because we all know surface level what's back, but what else is back? And I think both of those teams actually bring a lot to the table.
We were just talking about that last segment. That's why I believe he's the best college football analyst in the game right now, Cole Cubelic. He does his homework, and he's with us every Friday here on Off the Bench. Would there be a bigger loser if the schedule was to reshake than Texas A&M, where they just blew it up and started over? Would Texas A&M be the biggest loser of a schedule shakeup?
Maybe. South Carolina is kind of one of those teams that I think the East is so intriguing this year. I think even past Georgia, Florida, because I actually think Kentucky's going to be a really good football team. That's what I told you guys last week. If they go to that next two model, like nobody was focusing on Tennessee and Kentucky being picked up by LSU, and I'm like, hold on a second. Like LSU did not just walk out of that easy right there. Like those are two teams that can beat any other team in the league any Saturday. Like things would have to go their way. They would have to play great football, but they have talent and they've been playing together. The systems are in place. I think South Carolina's an interesting team too, and A&M's at least going to get them. And so much of the schedule talk depends, Jordy, on who do you get. Like we can talk about LSU, Alabama, A&M, Florida, but it's like I need to know who you're getting before I really say, okay, Alabama can go undefeated, or LSU's going to win the West, or Florida's going to win the East. Like, I mean, I'm serious. I need to know who these other two opponents are going to be. But A&M's schedule, regardless, just losing the non-conference games, they're taking a hit on this deal. Because, and I told T-Bob this last week, like, no matter who they are, my opinion of A&M has changed. Because I viewed that team as having a great chance to be 10-0 with Alabama and LSU left on the schedule, maybe even 9-1, because they got to go to Auburn, and that thing's been kind of weird. But even 9-1 with two gigantic opportunity games left on your schedule, you're playing for a spot in the playoff. So I mean, and you're playing to win the division. Because if you're 9-1, and let's say you lost to Auburn, well, if you beat Bama and LSU, you're in. You just won the West. Unless Auburn has only one loss, which, I mean, then you're in with a tiebreaker. So you're in. So my opinion of A&M has changed no matter who it is, because they're not going to be able to roll up the kind of momentum that they were facing those two monster opponents the way that they would have been if their schedule stayed the same.
Cole, a couple Auburn, Alabama questions here quickly to close things out. Alabama, no first-place votes. Any surprise there?
No, because mainly what Clemson is with Trevor Lawrence and mainly what Ohio State is with Justin Fields. We know how quarterbacks drive the conversation, drive the narrative, but it's not just those two. Those teams are loaded otherwise. That Ohio State offensive line is going to be tremendous. I think Wyatt Davis – which I'm going to go humble brag on you guys.
Don't go humble, bro. Lay it on us.
Wyatt Davis's father tweeted me back the other day and said he's a big fan of mine. And, I think I can die a happy man. And you guys know who Wyatt Davis's dad is?
I know. I don't, actually.
You probably haven't even seen the program, you youngin'.
Whoa. Starting defense, place at the table, bro. Don't come at me like that. That may be my favorite sports movie of all time.
It's the best sports movie ever made. Wyatt Davis, right guard, Ohio State. His father's Alvin Mack.
What?
Dwayne Davis. Yeah. So Alvin Mack tweeted me and said he's a big fan of mine. So,
oh, dude. Okay, you've arrived, Cole, after all these years.
Life is complete. I'm good. So, but that offensive line is going to be good. They lose a ton on defense, but I think their offense can be spectacular. I'm not surprised, just because I think right now Ohio State and Clemson have, they have the bulk of the hype. there are real questions about Bama's defense. There are real questions about their quarterback. I think he's capable, but he's not Tua. So I think it's fair to say, are they going to be the same as they were last year? And if they're not, I mean, they lost 2 games last year. So that the way they ended last year, they're not the number 1 team in the nation.
Cole, have you ever seen the version of the program where they lay under the traffic to get fired up for the game? Or maybe it's under the train?
I'm so disappointed that I did not see that.
I never saw it either. It's like an urban legend at this point. I've always heard about that scene, but that they had to take it out because like high school kids were trying to reenact it.
No, I think I was a freshman in high school when it came out, and I remember the stories. There were multiple kids in different parts of the country that tried to go out and do it and were killed.
No.
And what it was, I believe it was Joe Kane who was sitting in traffic reading a newspaper, like on the lines in the middle of the road.
Yeah.
And proving that he was, calm under pressure. And no, because it was in the theater for about a week, and I was going to go the next week to see it, and sure enough, it was gone at that point.
Kane is able.
Yeah.
Kane is able. Kane is able. Cole Cubelic every Friday here. Tex Morris bringing the conversation. A couple of Auburn grads. Great work as always. Thank you very much.
Hey, thanks for having me, fellas.
Always. There's Cole Cubelic checking in. We'll close at hour 2 next.